So first thing, here's the website, academicintegrity.as, because I'm a coordinator of academic integrity initiatives for the College of Arts and Sciences. You're not going to find this under just .ua. It's .as.ua.edu. And what you're going to find here, links to all the UA academic integrity policies. You're going to find next week a schedule of free student workshops and the registration link. If you have students who you think need a refresher course in how to use sources in their writing, please send them to this website. There's a For Students page on the website, and they can sign up for free, register for free tutorials in person, face-to-face, not online. So they'll get some actual practical help with a real-life person. There is also a page of resources for students. You can send your students here. They're not only resources on how to use different citation formats, but there are also resources on why they should use different, whatever citation format you use in your course. Additionally, for you, there's a large section of resources for faculty. There are going to be samples there of teaching materials like the one that's included in your packet today. There's also a large collection of teaching tips for how to teach for academic integrity, and there are links to current discussions about the issues related to academic integrity. So you're going to find a ton of information there. I put this slide first because really it's the most important. It's a hub, it's a great resource, and I hope that you will find it useful. So if I don't say anything else useful today, this is the thing you take away, okay? Okay, so intentionality is important when we're talking about academic integrity and student cheating. And basically there are two types. One type is intentional and one type is unintentional. Intentional, you know what it is. It's turning in work done by somebody else. We're finding increasing, nationwide, internationally, we're finding increasing amounts, not of copy and paste plagiarism, but increasing amounts of contract cheating. Do you know what that is? It's when you hire somebody to write a paper for you, and there's a worldwide market. We had a paper last year in an English class turned in, written by someone in Belgium. So this may be something that you want to look out for. Again, on the website, we've got tons of resources on how to deal with these kinds of issues. But intentional plagiarism is when somebody sets out to do it. They know that they're trying to bypass the spirit of the assignment by having somebody else do the work for them. They make and use cheat sheets on tests, falsifying research data, even recycling papers, turning in papers that they've written in high school or that they've written for other courses, hoping that you won't notice that it's not really on your assigned topic. All of that is intentional. We're going to talk about that just a little bit. The main thing I'm going to talk about is unintentional cheating, though. That's when students don't know they're cheating. They're trying honestly to do your work. They just don't exactly know how. It's when students don't know how to handle group work or collaboration. Maybe you've assigned them group work and then to write a report, a lab report or something based on group work, and the work among the group members is too similar. That's an issue that you'll need to think about if you have that kind of scenario, and figure out what you're going to do on the front end to try to prevent that, because it does happen. The largest thing that we see is sloppy citation practices, or just not understanding how to cite sources, attempts to cite sources perhaps, but doing it so totally wrong that you think that it might not be done by the student themselves. Sometimes getting too much help from a friend. And again, recycling a paper without permission. It's okay to use work you've already used if you're improving it and you have a professor's permission to improve it. It's when you try to turn in something whole cloth. probably it's already going to be in the Turnitin database, and that's how you're going to catch it. But students need to understand that when they're doing work for your class, it needs to be original work for your class, because you're teaching them at the age they are right now, not at the age they were and the experience level they were when they wrote that paper. So I try to tell students that, in fairness to them, they need to show you where they are so you know how to get them to the next level. So intentional plagiarism, the general conditions for that, I'm not going to go into them because you have the text for you, but intentional plagiarism happens when students are more focused on completion of an assignment than learning what goes into doing that assignment. It's when they're more focused on getting the win, on getting the grade, on getting the piece of paper, the diploma, the certificate that shows that they've completed something, rather than actually learning how to do that thing to earn that grade, certificate, whatever. As academics, we understand that learning happens because we get a personal satisfaction. We're curious. We want to know things. We want to learn things. Students don't always have that same impetus. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. Also, when a task seems unimportant, I hear it all the time from students. I teach in the English department. I'm in engineering. I'm taking 101 or 102 or 103 because it's required. I have no interest in this course whatsoever. I'll never use English again. Okay. You might face this also in courses like math, biology, if someone's a history major. You're going to run into people who are there because it's a requirement and they have absolutely no interest in it. And when students don't have an interest in a subject, they sometimes cheat just to get it over with, to get through it. So when a task seems unimportant, or it seems impossible, same thing, they may be totally interested in your chemistry assignment, but it is totally impossible for them. They're not prepared for it. They don't understand how it works. They might, at that point, turn to cheating. And also, when students have a perception that their peers are cheating, they're more likely to cheat. So basically, when the focus is on just getting the assignment out of the way, on getting the grade, getting the course out of the way, rather than on learning, that's when intentional cheating is likely to happen. The general conditions for unintentional cheating are just generally being unprepared for college, not being familiar with the topic that your course covers, not being familiar with the type of assignment you're asking them to write. You can't assume that every student has had the same level of preparation for your course. You also can't assume that they know how to write or do the kind of assignment you're asking them to write. We're going to talk about that again in a minute. When they have unclear assignment instructions and they feel like they don't have access to the professor to ask for clarification, and when they feel like they don't have enough support for assignment success, that's basically when you're going to see unintentional cheating. Students who earnestly try to do the right thing, they just don't know how, and especially with first-year students, they sometimes are reluctant to ask because they think you'll think worse of them or lesser of them if they don't already know the answer to the question they're asking you. We're going to talk about ways that you can counteract that. The good news is that the largest percentage of academic integrity cases we see in the College of Arts and Sciences is unintentional. It's just students who are totally lost. They have no idea how to do what they've been asked to do. The bad news is that we still have to deal with it. So let's talk about that. Okay, this always shocks people. According to all the research done in the field of academic integrity, threats of punishment, or students who actually know somebody who did it and got caught and got punished, the reality of punishment, don't do anything at all to prevent cheating. It doesn't seem to matter because cheating, the decision to cheat is largely a situational decision, and students decide that the punishment is an acceptable risk. They've got to get this thing done. They're so focused on getting this thing off their plate that they forget the reason why the thing was assigned to begin with, okay? So it's not going to help at all if you stand in front of your class and say, don't cheat. If you cheat, you're going to get expelled. That does not help. So what does help? Less focus on the potential intentional cheater. Just forget about that. We can't control any of the reasons why a student who intends to cheat is going to cheat. Don't lose sleep over trying to prevent somebody who is determined to cheat, because you're not gonna do it, and you're gonna just mess up your social life. So what can we do? We can focus more on the things we can control, and that's the learning environment. If you strive to develop a supportive culture in your classroom, in your environment, your office hours, your office space, if you, in your teaching, create a supportive culture that highlights the importance of integrity, that highlights the importance of doing original work, that highlights the importance of ethical decision making, then you're going to be able to reach those students who are maybe on the cusp of making a bad decision. And a lot of it has to do with where you are right now, course and assignment design, fostering student engagement. I have a free tip for you. The university's QEP, Quality Enhancement Plan, is experiential learning. And they have a program that's available for graduate students, for instructors, for full-time faculty, called the Learning in Action Program. It's a fellowship, and you can spend an entire year learning how to engage students in experiences that will help them learn by doing. It's a wonderful program, and I highly recommend that you look into it if you're not sure about how to implement some of these things that I'm going to talk to you about. So consider that, okay? Now then, so how do you get students interested in your class? Number one, show enthusiasm for your course. If you drag yourself to the podium right at the minute class starts and you start droning on and on and on about, if you're that professor who writes with one hand and erases with the other, your students aren't going to get enthusiastic about your course. If you show enthusiasm, explain to your students before class, during your office hours, when you introduce yourself on day one. If you explain to them why this course matters to you, why you're in zoology, why you think journalism is the best major in the world, why you think whatever it is that you're teaching, why you're there, they will get excited. You will become personal to them, and it will matter. It does matter. Explain to them early why the course matters, why the course work matters. Students feed off of stuff like that. Ask what questions they have, not at the end of the course, but at the beginning. So, you are in world history. Why? What do you want to know? What are you interested in? I mean, I know you're taking this for a required credit. It's in the core, but what are you interested in about history? What's your favorite time period? Tell me some things about yourself and history, and then wrap your course around that. Get to know them, make it personal for them, in other words. Then design your course to let them know that the questions that they have matter, that you care whether they learn that information during the course of your course. Create unique assessments, things that ground students in the personal. I teach a writing course, and I have students, instead of reading essays about literature and writing about them, I have them pick an ancestor, and we use Ancestry.com to do historical research, not only on that person, but on the time period that person lived in. And their final essay is to write a profile of the person situated in the context of their time period. When you're writing a paper about your grandma, you don't really like to plagiarize it. If you can find ways to do that kind of thing, to personalize your assignment, you're going to find more success, okay? In other words, students who get invested either in you because they think you're cool and they like what you said on the first day of class about why you're interested in the field you're in. If they're invested in you, if they're invested in the coursework, they're much less likely to cheat. Encourage learning for mastery. I'm not going to cover all of these things, but it's really important for you to have clear learning objectives, for you to give your students some kind of choice in what they do to show you that they're learning. Some kinds of projects maybe that have personal choice, so that they can choose something they're interested in and not have to write that paper about gender roles in the yellow wallpaper, which you can find online 50,000 times. Mostly prepare your students for your assessments. Don't assume they know how to write the kind of thing you're asking them to write. They may not ever have done that. I've taught students before in the English department who never even wrote a book report in high school. They've never written anything. So getting up in front of the class and saying, okay, today we're going to write an analysis essay, that means nothing to a student who's never written any essay. So don't assume that they know how to do it. Show them how to do it. Plan to spend some time before that first assignment going over what you expect, what it looks like. Maybe show them some examples so that they know what they're writing to, so that they know what they're working toward, okay? And remember that learning comes from practice. If you want students to learn, you have to give them opportunities to practice what you're teaching. One of the factors for cheating is high stakes. If you only have one test at the end of the semester, there's going to be more likelihood that a student is going to try to cheat on it. If you have it sounds counterintuitive, but if you have more frequent assessments throughout the course of the semester, then your students are going to actually learn more, because it's not only the studying that helps students learn, it's also the testing. That testing situation also helps students learn. There's a whole list of things here and on the next page. Strategies that you can use to help lower the stakes. Not going to go over those, but my biggest takeaway here is if you give a student, particularly if you give a student a written assignment, it's part of your job to teach them how to do that assignment successfully, okay? That's really, really key. You can't count on the English department to teach every student at the university everything they're ever going to need to know about how to write for college, okay? Instill self-efficacy, help them build confidence with encouragement, but also honest assessment. Doesn't help a student if you say, wow, you're really good at this, when they're not, because they have a skewed reality then of how much time it's going to take them to prepare for a test. If they think they're already really good at it, they're probably not going to prepare. So be honest with students. Communication here is key. Okay, and there's, again, you have this in your notebook. It's going to be on the website next week. please take the time to look through these strategies and tips, because I don't have time to cover all of them. So some final common sense advice. Number one, find out what your college's procedure is for dealing with suspected academic misconduct and follow that procedure. Really important here. Do not make private deals with students you suspect of cheating. Don't say, oh, I'm going to let you slide this time, but, don't do it again. Find out what your college's procedure is and follow that procedure every time. You would be surprised how fast the lore takes off across campus when somebody says, oh, he lets you get away with cheating. You don't want that to happen, okay? Talk about academic integrity and the importance of actual learning as opposed to cheating your way through. Talk about this early and often. Be clear in your academic integrity policy. I've included in your notebook my policy. It's a whole page, and it goes in my syllabus, and I cover it on the first week of class. Be clear with your students what counts as integrity, what counts as original work. Look over the policy that your department recommends and be sure that it's on your syllabus, okay? Also, I'm gonna leave these for later because there are just too many of them. But final caution. We all want to be the best teachers we can be, and we want our students to learn. That's why we're here, that's why they're here. James Lang, who wrote one of the best books on academic integrity I've ever read, it's called Cheating Lessons, says at the end of that book that what we're striving to find is that happy juncture where more learning and less cheating meet and join hands. Isn't that lovely? They sing Kumbaya too. So, to that end, to make that happen, you are responsible for creating a supportive learning environment for your students. But realize that you cannot control their choices. A supportive focus on learning is going to help a lot of students become invested in your course to the point that cheating won't happen because they don't need to cheat. They're so invested in the learning, they don't need to cheat. But some students are still going to make an intentional choice to cheat. Don't take it personally. It's going to happen. It's going to happen to at least one of you this year. I don't know which one, which is why I'm talking to all of you, but it's going to happen in one of your classes, maybe more than one. They're going to make an intentional choice to cheat, and it's not your fault. Don't take it personally. If you have done everything you can to create a supportive environment to help everybody else in the class, especially those underprepared students who really will appreciate your helping them understand the academy and how it operates. But a student who chooses to cheat, their choice is their choice. It's not your choice. It's not something that you did. If that happens, you must turn it in. You must follow the procedure that the university or your college has set in place, and you must let that play out to the end, okay? It doesn't mean you're a bad teacher. It means that you're a good employee. It means that you're following the rules, and ultimately you help that person. Especially in the College of Arts and Sciences, chances are that person is going to get sent to me, and I'm going to sit down with that person for 3 or 4 or 5 sessions, however many it takes, until they understand that what they did was wrong. And then they get released back into the general population a little bit more aware. But they can't do that if you circumvent the system. Okay? Does that make sense? Everybody with me? Okay. So there's some resources here. They're at the back so that you can find them. These resources are also on the website. I'm just going to flip through them so you see what's here. There's some books if you're interested in this topic. It's a growing field in academic administration. If you're interested in doing some reading, there's some books for you. And again, don't forget, most important takeaway, we have this killer academic integrity website. I keep it current about 2 times a week with everything that's just come out. I've got a backlog of things I've got to upload for the summer next week, but it is a great resource, academicintegrity.as.ua.edu. If it does not have the answers to your questions, even if you're not in the College of Arts and Sciences, please feel free to contact me and ask me for advice, okay? Thank you.